stop. Don't touch him.
The last normal sound Ethan Walker heard that evening was his daughter laughing. That soft, squeaky giggle she always made. When Cooper, their old beagle mix, chased leaves across the yard. It was 6:48 p.m. in Cedar Hollow, late October, the kind of cold where your breath fogs instantly, and everything feels like it's holding its own secrets. And then, yeah, everything just stopped. Not slowed down, not faded. Stopped. Ethan didn't notice it at first. Nobody ever does, when the world holds its breath. Avery was 10 feet from the porch, crouched by the old swing set, picking up pine cones and pretending they were forest treasure. She always did that. 6 years old, going on 30. Hannah was inside the kitchen, stirring chili on the stove, humming something off-key. Everything was so damn normal. Then it happened. The wind died, like someone unplugged the atmosphere. No breeze, no leaves rustling. Nothing. Cooper froze mid-step, one paw lifted, ears perked, mouth open, but no bark came out. He just stared toward the tree line of Ravenwood, like he was seeing something humans weren't meant to see. Ethan frowned from the driveway. "Coop? What's wrong, buddy?" No response. Not even a twitch. Inside the house, the smart home panel glitched, then froze. The digital clock stopped at 6:49:12. Just stuck there, like time said, "Nope, I'm done." Ethan looked back toward Avery, and she was gone. No scream, no footsteps, no rustling branches. Just gone. "Avy?" he called out. "Hey, Peanut, where'd you go?" Silence. A strange, heavy silence. He checked behind the slide, behind the shed, behind the firewood rack. Nothing. The first real stab of panic hit him. Sharp, cold, instant. "Hannah! Hannah!" The kitchen screen door slammed open. "What? Ethan, what happened?" "She's not." She was right there and now. "Hannah, I don't." "Avery!" Hannah dropped the wooden spoon in the grass. "Avery! Baby! Answer Mommy!" Silence. A wrong kind of silence. "Ethan, where's the wind? Why is it so quiet?" Before he could answer, the smell hit them. A faint metallic scent drifting from the tree line, like cold iron, like electricity before a storm, or something they didn't have a name for. Cooper snapped out of his trance, barking like he was choking on his own fear. Not anger, terror. "Ethan, where is she?" Hannah whispered. I don't know," he said, voice breaking. "I looked away for 10 seconds. 10 seconds?" she cried. "Ethan, she's a kid. She could have—" "Avery!" Ethan screamed. "Avery, answer me!" And then Hannah stepped 1 foot past the fence line into Ravenwood. The temperature dropped instantly. Her breath hitched. Her teeth chattered. Ethan followed. No footprints, no broken branches, no sign Avery had walked in. But he felt it, deep in the old part of the human brain. She was in there. Cooper whimpered behind them, tail tucked, staring into the darkness. They looked into Ravenwood, and for 1 second, Ethan saw something move. Not a person, not an animal, a shape, tall, still, watching. Then, Avery's orange jacket fluttered, just the sleeve, just a glimpse, then gone. "Oh my God, Avery!" Hannah bolted forward. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Wait, Hannah, wait. We don't know what that is." "I don't care," she screamed. "That's my baby!" She ran into Ravenwood. Ethan sprinted after her. The forest swallowed them whole. No yard, no house, no sky, just cold, suffocating darkness. "Avery!" Hannah cried. "Please, honey, please answer Mommy." But Ravenwood didn't echo her voice. It swallowed it. "Time 900 miles," something growled. Far away. Low. Ancient. Then, behind them, the smart home clock on the porch beeped once and unfroze. Back in the yard, Cooper howled. A long, terrified, broken howl. Time had restarted, but Avery was gone. And the next 18 seconds had already changed everything, forever. By the fourth night, honestly, nobody in Cedar Hollow was pretending anymore. Not the cops, not the volunteers, not the neighbors dropping off casseroles nobody touched. The whole town felt drained, like everyone had been wrung out and hung on a line to dry. And that night, yeah, that was the first time people started whispering the word body. Ethan hated it. Hannah couldn't even hear it without flinching. The sun had gone down 2 hours earlier, leaving Ravenwood looking like one giant black bruise against the sky. Their backyard floodlight flickered every few minutes, like it was scared too. People were scattered everywhere. Flashlights, search dogs, police radios crackling every 30 seconds. But none of that prepared them for what Sheriff Dalton said next. He stepped onto the Walker's front porch, holding his hat in both hands, gripping it tightly. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 4 days. He cleared his throat twice, maybe 3 times. He wouldn't look either of them in the eyes. "Ethan, Hannah," he said, voice cracking. "I need you both to sit down." Hannah shook her head. "No, just tell us. Please." Dalton swallowed hard. "Based on the, temperatures and the terrain and the lack of new tracks." He went quiet. Too quiet. Ethan stepped forward. "Dalton, say it." The sheriff closed his eyes, then opened them, and broke. At this point, her chance of survival is under 8%. Everything, every sound, cut out. The voices, the radios, the dogs, all of it. It was like the world punched them in the lungs. Hannah didn't scream. That's what people expected, right? A mother wailing, collapsing into someone's arms. But no, she just froze, like her soul left her body, like something inside her snapped in total silence. Then her legs buckled. She went straight down onto the porch step, hard. Her knees bruised instantly. She didn't feel it. Her breath came out in broken, gasping shudders, like she couldn't pull air into her lungs. Her hands clawed at the wood. Her voice wouldn't come out at first. Then it did, and God, that sound. It wasn't human. Not crying. Not screaming. Something deeper. A sound ripped straight from a place grief shouldn't be able to reach. No, 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 don't say that. Don't you dare. Don't you. She rocked back and forth, fingers digging into the porch, like she was trying to hold on to the earth itself, so she wouldn't fall into some invisible hole. Hannah, Hannah, breathe. Baby, you need to breathe. Ethan tried to pull her up, but she shoved him off like she didn't recognize him. Not my baby. Not my little girl. Please, please. And Ethan just broke. He staggered off the porch, stumbling like he was drunk from pain. Then he dropped, hard, both knees slamming into the dirt. He punched the ground, once, twice, again, and again, until his knuckles split open, blood smearing into the grass. Why? He roared. Why would you say that? She's 7. She's 7 years old. You don't get to. You don't. His voice cracked into this awful, raw sound, the kind that makes everyone around go still. A volunteer, Trish, covered her mouth and cried. Another man put his flashlight down because his hands shook too badly to hold it. And through all of it, Marshall, their little old corgi, sat at the porch steps. He tried to howl, but the sound that came out was broken, like someone was squeezing his throat shut. A low, strangled, muffled cry. It was like the dog was grieving with them, or sensing something humans couldn't. The porch light flickered, then went out. Ethan looked up, dirt on his face. No, not tonight. Please, not tonight. Dalton raised his radio. We're losing power again. All units be adva. His radio cut out. No static. No beep. Nothing. The dark wrapped tighter around the yard. Someone whispered, "It's the forest. It's doing it again." Nobody argued. Nobody laughed it off. Because everyone had been feeling it. That pressure in the air. That sense that Ravenwood wasn't just there. It was watching. Hannah finally collapsed sideways, curling into a tight ball, her body shutting down from heartbreak. Ethan crawled to her, pulling her into his chest. She buried her face in his jacket, sobbing so hard she shook the porch floorboards. "We're not burying her," Ethan whispered fiercely. "Do you hear me? We're not. She's coming home. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care. I don't." But he was crying too hard to finish. Marshall pressed his head against Hannah's leg, whimpering, his whole little body trembling. Searchlights swung across the edge of the forest, cutting through the fog. Every volunteer stopped moving. The tree line looked closer, like it had shifted, like it was leaning in. Dalton stepped back. Everyone stay alert. Forest's acting strange again. And in that moment, with the yard drowned in darkness, with Hannah gasping for breath, with Ethan bleeding into the dirt, a searchlight landed on something at the edge of Ravenwood, something tall, still, watching. And the night, the whole night, seemed to inhale. And the crazy thing is, after a night like part 2, you kinda think the world can't gut punch you again. Like maybe the worst already happened. Maybe the universe finally ran out of ways to hurt you. Yeah. No, because at 5:17 a.m., something hit their window. Not loud, not violent. Just tap. Like knuckles. But softer. Lower. Rhythmic. Hannah didn't wake up from sleep. She hadn't slept at all. She was sitting sideways on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes swollen from crying for hours. Ethan was on the floor beside her, back against the couch, dried blood still on his knuckles. The house was quiet in that awful, heavy way, like grief was hanging in the vents. Then, tap, tap, tap. Hannah blinked. Did you hear that? Ethan rubbed his face to probably a branch. The wind picked up. But they both knew the wind had been dead still all night. Tap. This one was sharper. Hannah stood, slowly, like her legs didn't trust the floor. She walked toward the front window, heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her teeth. "Ethan," she whispered, "there's something. Someone." Ethan jumped up, suddenly wide awake. "Hey, get behind me. Don't open anything." He grabbed a flashlight, even though the house power still flickered, and approached the window. The moment the beam hit the glass, Hannah sucked in a breath so fast she choked. A German shepherd was standing on their porch, big, broad, alert. Its fur was matted with mud, dark red mud, caked in thick patches down its legs, and on its right paw. Mud wasn't the only thing. There were scratches, fresh, like something jagged had torn the skin. But the mud, oh God, the mud. Hannah covered her mouth. "Ethan, that's red clay." Ethan's stomach dropped. No, that can't be." Because everyone in Cedar Hollow knew exactly where that color came from. Red Hollow Basin. 30 years sealed off. Too many disappearances. Too damn many. "That place is 8 miles into the restricted zone," Ethan whispered. "How the hell—" Tap. The dog lifted its paw and tapped the window again. Gentle, not frantic, not begging, purposeful, like it was trying to say something. Hannah stumbled back. "Ethan, he wants us to follow." The dog didn't bark, didn't growl, didn't pace. It just stared at them through the glass, eyes sharp, but not threatening. More like urgent. Like it understood they were falling apart, and it didn't have time for a gentle explanation. Ethan whispered, "Where did you come from?" The shepherd blinked once, then turned, not randomly, not wandering, in a pay-attention kind of way. It walked 3 steps toward the tree line, slow, deliberate, then stopped and looked back. Hannah's breath shook. "Ethan, do you see that? Do you see how he's acting?" "I see it," Ethan muttered. "Jesus, I see it." The shepherd stepped forward again, stopped, looked back with that same move kind of energy, like it was saying so. "Hurry, you don't have a lot of time." And then, the part nobody expected. Marshall, their little old corgi, limped out of the hallway. Somehow standing after last night was a miracle. He walked straight to the window, pressed his nose to the glass. Not scared. Recognizing. Like, "Oh, you." Like he knew the shepherd. Hannah whispered, "Ethan, Marshall knows him. He knows him." Ethan placed a hand on Marshall's back. The corgi was trembling. Not fear trembling. Adrenaline trembling. The kind the body does when the soul says, "Go now." The shepherd lifted its paw again, revealing more of that red mud. Grainy, gritty, unmistakable. Hannah grabbed Ethan's arm. "If Avery passed through Red Hollow Basin—" "Don't finish that," Ethan said, voice breaking. But they both knew. Red Hollow Basin was where people vanished, not where they got lost, not where they wandered, where they vanished. And this dog, this stranger, was covered in its dirt. Hannah pressed both hands to the window, tears streaming, hot, new, desperate. "Please," she whispered, "please tell me you saw her. Tell me you're here because of her. Tell me." The dog stepped closer to the porch light. The bulb flickered, once, twice, like it was reacting to something around him. Then the shepherd lifted its head and stared directly at Hannah. And for a microsecond, so fast Ethan almost doubted it, the shepherd's eyes glowed. Not bright, not supernatural. Just enough to make your skin crawl. Enough to say, "I know where she is." Hannah gasped. "Ethan, he saw something. Oh my God. He knows. He knows." The dog barked once, short, sharp, not aggressive. A command. Then it turned toward Ravenwood. Not the normal part. Not the trails people used. It turned toward the part nobody talked about. The part sealed off since 1993. Red Hollow Basin. Hannah's whole body trembled. "Ethan, if this dog came from there, then Avery could still be alive," Ethan whispered, voice cracking open like a wound. The shepherd took off, not running, but jogging with a confident pace, expecting them to follow, begging them to follow, offering them something they hadn't had in days. A direction, a sign, a thread, a chance. Time to 100 NEMs. Hannah grabbed her jacket, hands shaking. We're following him. I don't care what the sheriff says. I don't care what anyone says. Ethan hesitated. 2 seconds. Just 2. Before his body made the decision for him. He opened the door. Cold morning air slammed into them, smelling like pine, dirt, and fear. The shepherd stopped 20 feet away, looking back, waiting, calling, guiding. Ethan whispered, "Avery, baby, hold on." Then he stepped off the porch, right behind the dog, right into the forest, right toward whatever the hell was waiting in Red Hollow Basin. Real talk. If you saw a dog show up at your window at 5 a.m., covered in mud from a place known for disappearances, would you follow it immediately? Call someone first. Freeze and stare like nope, 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 or grab a flashlight and charge into the trees. Which one are you, honestly? And the wild thing is, once they followed that shepherd off the porch, the fear didn't ease up. It just changed shape. Quieter, sharper, like something watching from just past their flashlight beams. The dog trotted ahead, steady, not rushing, glancing back every few seconds, making sure they were keeping up. Ethan held the light. Hannah held her breath. Marshall limped beside them like he was forcing his old bones to do something his instincts hated. The woods were different. Not just darker. Different. No bugs. No wind. No owls. Nothing. It sounded like the world holding its breath again. "Ethan," Hannah whispered, "I swear, the trees, they look closer." He didn't want to answer, because he saw it too. Trunks inching inward, just a little, every time the light passed over them. "Just stay with me," he muttered. "Stay close." A branch cracked to their left. Not a twig. Something big, heavy. Stepping on it. Hannah jerked. "What was that?" "I don't know," Ethan whispered. "Could be a deer. A coyote. I don't know." But the shepherd didn't react, which made it worse. Because if it wasn't worried, then whatever made that sound wasn't a threat, or it was something the dog expected. Another 50 yards, and things got stranger. The air thickened, heavy, cold like water, like every breath had weight. Marshall whined, a small, embarrassed sound, and then the shepherd slowed, stopped, stared straight ahead. Ethan whispered, "Why are we stopping? What's wrong?" The dog didn't move, didn't bark, didn't twitch, just waited. Then the trees moved, not the leaves, not the branches, the trunks. 2 towering pines, 30 feet tall, tilted, slowly, bowing, their roots groaning deep underground, this ancient whale song rumble buried in dirt. Hannah grabbed Ethan's arm. Ethan, do you see that? Do you see that? He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the trunks weren't just moving. They were opening. Slow, patient, deliberate. The entire forest seemed to shift, creating a narrow corridor straight into the dark. Not natural, not possible, not close. Hannah shook her head. No, no, trees don't do that. Ethan, trees don't do that. I know, he whispered. I know. Just stay behind me. The shepherd stepped into the new path without hesitation. Marshall froze, ears pinned back, tail tucked so far it practically vanished. A trembling whine escaped him. But then, he followed too. Because whatever was in those trees wasn't threatening them. It was guiding them. The path felt wrong. Too narrow, too controlled, trunks arching overhead like ribs. The smell changed. Wet soil, sap, and something metallic beneath it. This feels like being inside something, Hannah whispered. Ethan squeezed her hand. Don't think about it. Just walk. 20 steps later, Hannah froze. Wait. Stop. Go back. Shine the light there. There. Ethan turned the flashlight. A massive root structure jutted from the ground, 6 feet high, a wall of tangled claws, and caught inside them, something pink. Hannah gasped, both hands flying to her mouth. Oh my God! Oh my God! Is that? Ethan stepped closer. It was Avery's bracelet. Bright pink beads. Her name spelled in white letters. A Very. Wedged far too high for her to reach. Like something lifted it. Placed it. Offered it. Hannah yanked it free, nearly falling. Clutched it to her chest like it was oxygen. Then she broke. It's hers, she sobbed. It's hers. Oh God, Ethan, she was here. She was here. Ethan swallowed hard. That root. Babe. Look how high it is. She couldn't have reached that. Someone had to. I don't care who, Hannah cried. She was alive when she dropped it. This means she was alive recently. She. Ethan held her face gently. Yes. It means she's alive. It means we're close. It means we're not too late. The shepherd barked once, sharp, urgent. Not come here, not hurry. This way, before it closes. Ethan turned and saw the trees behind them shifting again, quietly, slowly, closing the path. Ethan. The path. I see it. We keep moving. The dog trotted ahead, paws silent. The cold deepened. The trunks pressed closer. And every 20 yards, another sign. A torn hair ribbon. A footprint in soft earth. A tiny unicorn charm Avery always carried. Each one placed somewhere impossible to reach. Like something tall or someone tall set them there. Hannah whispered, Ethan, this doesn't feel like a kidnapping. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I think. He swallowed. I think something took her, but not to hurt her. What does that even mean? Hannah breathed. I don't know, Ethan said. But the forest, he pointed around them. It's not trying to scare us. It's guiding us. The shepherd barked again, softer, almost encouraging, and they walked, deeper, farther, into the place nobody ever came back from. The trees opened into a clearing, silent as deep water. And there, straight ahead, something small lay half buried in the soil. A shoe. Avery's shoe. And the ground around it, disturbed, like something had been kneeling there, breathing there, watching, waiting. The shepherd stepped forward, sniffed once, then lifted its head and stared into the darkest part of the basin, and its tail lowered, its ears flattened. For the first time, it looked afraid. And the crazy thing is, after finding that little shoe in the dirt, you'd think the forest would give them a second to breathe, a moment to feel something. But nope. Ravenwood wasn't slowing down. It was pulling them forward, like a hand wrapped around their ribs. The shepherd, Rook, took off again. Not running, just that steady, eerie trot, like he knew the route by heart. Marshall limped behind, whining under his breath. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Ethan and Hannah were running on adrenaline, hope and terror mixing into something almost electric. The trees closed behind them, again, always closing. It felt less like they were walking into a forest, and more like they were moving through a throat that kept swallowing them deeper. About 5 minutes in, the smell changed. Not pine, not earth. Smoke. Old smoke. Wood smoke. Hannah's head snapped up. Ethan, do you smell that? He slowed. Yeah, I do, but there's no chimneys out here. Nothing's been lived in since the lodge, Hannah whispered. Ethan froze. What lodge? Morris Lodge, from the 1920s. My mom used to tell stories about it. He stared at her. Why didn't you say that earlier? Because it's supposed to be gone, Ethan. It burned in the 70s. It's been condemned for decades. Rook barked once, sharp, like, stop talking and follow me. They pushed through a curtain of vines, and there it was. Morris Lodge. Exactly where it shouldn't be. A cabin so old, it looked like time forgot to finish destroying it. Logs warped, roof sagging, windows cracked, but still standing. And from the stone chimney, smoke. Thin. Gray. Drifting like someone had lit a fire an hour ago. Ethan's voice dropped. That's impossible. Time, 1,000 moms. Hannah clutched her chest. It's been abandoned for... Ethan, it's older than the town. Rook trotted to the front steps and sat like a soldier on watch. Marshall refused to cross the tree line. Fear or respect. Ethan lifted the flashlight. Stay behind me. But Hannah stepped forward first. No, my baby is in this forest. If this place has answers, I'm going in. Her hand shook when she pushed the crooked door open. Inside, it was warm, not a leftover heat, not a trapped draft. Warm like someone lived there. Burned cedar clung to the walls. The air shimmered near the fireplace, where embers still glowed red beneath charred logs. Hannah whispered, "Someone was just here." Ethan scanned the room. Dust everywhere, except for a line of footsteps. Tiny ones. Barefoot. Avery small. They led straight to the old sink. Hannah rushed forward, her hands shaking so violently she almost fell. And there it was. A silver hair clip. Bent. Scratched. Avery's. The one she wore every morning. Hannah gasped. "It's hers. Ethan, it's hers." She clutched it like it was a piece of Avery's heartbeat, tears dripping onto the metal. "She was here," she sobbed. "My baby was right here, in this room." Ethan wrapped her in his arms. "We're close, Hannah. We're so damn close." But then, he saw something above the sink, a nail in the wall, and hanging from it, a framed photograph. Ethan stepped closer. "Hannah, you need to see this. I don't care about—" "Hannah, look." She turned and froze. The picture was old, black and white, edges yellowed, taken with one of those giant wooden cameras from the 1900s. In the center stood a man, tall, broad, heavy canvas clothes, his jawline, his eyes. Hannah whispered, "No, no, that's not Ethan. That looks exactly like—" "Walter Merritt," Ethan said quietly. "Your great-grandfather." Her chest collapsed inward. She pressed a hand to the wall. "But he disappeared when he was 29. In this forest. They never found him." Ethan pointed to the date scribbled on the frame. October 14th, 1941. And standing beside Walter in that photo, Rook. The exact same shepherd, same markings, same eyes, same stance, not a descendant, not a look-alike, the same dog. Hannah's voice cracked. "Ethan, that's impossible." Rook growled softly from the doorway. Not at them, at something behind the cabin. Ethan's blood went cold. "We need to go, now." Hannah ripped the photo off the wall, shoving it into her jacket. "If Avery came through here, then whatever took Walter, whatever saved him, took her too." The cabin exhaled, wood creaking like it understood. Outside, Marshall began barking, terrified, strangled, like he was being dragged underwater. Rook sprinted into the darkness, hackles raised. Ethan grabbed Hannah's arm. "We follow him, right now, whoever or whatever was in this cabin with Avery." He pointed into the forest. "It's still out there." And Hannah whispered, "Then we're going after it." And honestly, after the whole Morris Lodge thing, the warm fireplace, the photo from 1941, the dog that hasn't aged in 80 years, you'd think the night would slow down. Let them breathe. Let them understand at least one thing. Nope. Ravenwood had other plans. The second Ethan and Hannah stepped out of the cabin, Rook bolted toward the east tree line, not chasing, not fleeing, guiding. Hannah clutched the silver hair clip to her chest, breathing like her ribs might snap from sheer adrenaline. Ethan stayed close behind her, flashlight shaking in his hand. "Rook knows something," she whispered. He wouldn't run like that unless—" "I know," Ethan breathed. "Come on, stay with him." Marshall barked behind them, but not his usual bark. This one was strained, tight, like someone invisible was squeezing his throat. Both of them stopped cold. Hannah spun around. "Marshall! Hey, boy, come here!" But he didn't move forward. He moved backward. Slow, crouched, ears flat. Like something bigger than him was standing right in front of him. Ethan aimed the flashlight and froze. "Holy... Hannah, look." In the mud, pressed beneath a knot of moss-covered roots. Footprints. Avery's footprints. Small. Bare. One tilted like she'd stumbled. Hannah dropped to her knees so hard they scraped against the stones. Avery was right here. She walked right here. She touched the prints like they might vanish if she blinked. That's when Ethan saw the others. Bigger, much bigger. Dog-shaped, but wrong. 8 inches long, 4 inches wide. Deep. So deep the mud hadn't recovered. Ethan swallowed hard. "Hannah, don't freak out, okay?" "What?" she said, still crying over the little footprints. "Look next to them." She looked, and her whole body went cold. The print beside Avery's wasn't a dog print. Too wide across the pad, too long at the top. And the claws, they weren't curved. They were straight, sharp, built for grabbing, not running. Hannah whispered, That's not right." Rook stepped forward, hackles rising inch by inch. He didn't bark. He backed away. A shepherd, backing away from a footprint like it was a live-thund grenade. "Rook, buddy." "What is that?" Ethan whispered. Rook let out a low, broken growl, like even naming the thing would give it power. Then a voice came from behind them. "That," the voice said, calm, cold, "isn't a dog." Hannah spun around, nearly slipping. A tall man stepped into the dim light. Gray-streaked beard, patched coat, lantern in hand. Silas Ward, the forest guide who lived off-grid on the outer ridge of Ravenwood. "Silas? What are you doing out here?" Hannah gasped. Silas scanned the prints. "Heard the dogs. Heard the forest moving. Figured something bad was happening." Ethan pointed. "You know what made that print?" Silas crouched, lantern low, flame trembling. Then he exhaled. "That's nightfall." Hannah's voice cracked. Night. What? Nightfall, Silas repeated. That's what we call it. Ethan stared. Okay, great. But what the hell is it? Silas stood slowly, lantern shaking in his hand even though he tried to hide it. It's, not exactly a wolf, not a dog. Older, smarter, bigger. Lives deep in Ravenwood, where the ground sinks and the trees grow sideways. Hannah's voice splintered. Did it take my daughter? Silas raised a hand gently. No. No, if Nightfall took her, you wouldn't be finding footprints. You wouldn't be finding anything. Ethan grabbed Hannah as her knees nearly gave. Silas continued, voice low. Nightfall doesn't hunt kids. It hunts what hunts kids. Hannah blinked. I don't understand. Silas pointed at the prints. You see those marks next to Avery's? She wasn't being followed. She was being escorted. Hannah burst into tears again, the messy, shaking kind. So, something was protecting her? Keeping her alive? Silas nodded. Looks like it. Ethan pressed a hand to his mouth, breath shaking. Then we need to find it, or find where they went. Silas lifted his lantern, pointing north. The ridge path. It only opens when the forest wants it to. Looks like tonight, it opened. Rook growled softly, not at Silas, but toward the ridge. Ethan squeezed Hannah's shoulder. We're going. Right now. Silas stepped in front of them. One warning. Ethan glared. What now? Silas pointed at Nightfall's print. The huge one. If you see the animal that made that, don't run. Hannah whispered. Why? Silas looked at her. Eyes dark, serious, like he was staring straight through her fear. Because if Nightfall is walking with your daughter, it means something worse is walking behind you. The forest creaked. Marshall whimpered. Rook growled again, low and vibrating, and Hannah whispered, Then we better move before it catches up. And honestly, after seeing those giant prints beside Avery's tiny ones, Hannah thought nothing could rattle her more. Like her fear had hit max capacity already. But Ravenwood? Yeah. No. Ravenwood had one more card to flip. The second they stepped onto the ridge path Silas pointed toward, the trees shifted again. Not violently. Just enough for Rook to stop dead, ears snapping forward. He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He ran. Straight ahead. Toward something. Hannah froze mid-step. Rook! Rook! Hey! Get back here! But the shepherd didn't stop. He bolted across the clearing, paws pounding dirt, tail stiff, posture laser-focused, straight toward a figure standing half-hidden between two massive cedar trunks. A man, tall, broad, wearing an old forest coat that looked like it had survived 3 lifetimes of storms. Lantern in one hand, walking stick in the other. Shadows shifted over him, but he stood so still he could have been carved from the tree itself. Ethan raised the flashlight. beam shaking across the leaves. Who the hell? But then Rook reached the man and did something that made Hannah's entire body lock up. He leaned into the man's leg, like greeting someone he trusted, someone he knew. The man placed a hand on Rook's head, calm, familiar, like they'd done this 100 times. Ethan whispered, "Okay. What the hell?" Hannah stepped closer, voice cracking. "Rook, you know him?" The man lifted his head, slow, steady, eyes meeting theirs. Not startled, not confused, not like a stranger, like he'd been waiting. His voice broke the silence. Low, rough, tired. "Hannah Merritt." Hannah's breath stopped. How do you know my name?" He stepped forward, lantern glow brushing his face. "And your daughter," he said quietly. "Avery, 7 years old, missing 4 nights. Now!" Hannah stumbled backward like she'd been hit. Ethan grabbed her arm. "All right, buddy, stop right there. Start talking, now." The man didn't flinch, didn't bristle, just nodded, like he expected the anger. "My name is Silas Hartwell," he said. "I live deeper in Ravenwood, past the hollow, past where the old maps end." "That's not an answer," Ethan snapped. "How do you know us?" Silas looked at Hannah, direct, soft, heavy. "You used to sing 'Star in My Pocket' to Avery when she couldn't sleep." Hannah's heart slammed. What? Nobody knows that." Silas nodded. The second verse was always off key, but Avery liked that part best. Hannah's knees buckled. Ethan caught her before she fell. "Impossible," she whispered. Nobody knows that. Not even my mom." Silas stepped forward, lantern glowing against fog that refused to leave this part of the woods. "I know," he said, "because Avery told me." Ethan tensed. "You saw her?" Silas held Ethan's gaze. "I did." Hannah shook. Is she, oh God?" "Silas, is she, please, just tell me." "She's alive," Silas said, firm, steady, zero hesitation. Hannah collapsed into Ethan, hand over her mouth, a sob ripping out of her chest. "Alive, alive, alive." Ethan swallowed. "Where is she? Did you bring her? Is she hurt?" Silas didn't answer right away. Not because he didn't know, but because he was choosing the words carefully. "She isn't alone," he said finally. Hannah's crying stopped, not eased. Stopped. Ethan stepped between them. "What does that mean?" Silas looked past them, toward the thicker trees. "There are things in Ravenwood that protect, and things that stalk. Avery was found by something old, something most people never see." "Nightfall," Ethan said. "You're talking about nightfall." Silas's jaw twitched. "Yes and no. What does that even mean? Hannah whispered. Silas set the lantern down, its flames stretching long shadows. Nightfall isn't the one I'm talking about, he said. Something else is with her. Something that doesn't answer to me, or to Rook, or to the forest guides. Hannah grabbed his jacket, desperate. But she's safe, right? Silas, tell me she's safe. Silas didn't flinch. She's as safe as any child can be when Ravenwood decides she should stay alive. Ethan paced, dragging a hand through his hair. Okay, enough riddles. Just take us to her, please. Silas nodded, but raised a hand. Listen carefully, he said. If you follow me, there's no turning back. The thing with her won't let you leave twice. Rook whined softly, nudging Silas's leg, like agreeing. Silas lifted the lantern, its glow pressed against the darkness ahead. Come, he said, before Ravenwood changes its mind. Hannah grabbed Ethan's hand. We're going. No fear, no hesitation. Just love. Raw, reckless, unstoppable. They stepped toward Silas, Rook at his side, Marshall behind them, the forest watching, and somewhere deep in those trees, Avery was waiting. Real talk. If you were standing there in the dark, and a stranger said your missing kid was alive but not alone, would you follow him without blinking? Demand proof even if time is running out? Or freeze because nothing makes sense anymore? Honestly, which one are you? And after everything Silas dropped on them in part 7, after the way the forest shifted when he said Avery wasn't alone, you'd think Hannah and Ethan were ready for anything. Yeah. No. Nothing prepares you for what they were about to see. They followed Silas deeper into Ravenwood. If followed was even the right word. It felt more like stumbling after him while the ground beneath their feet kept doing that slow, unsettling, breathing thing, expanding, shifting, alive. Rook stayed glued to Silas's side, tail low, head forward, moving with this laser focus that made the hair on Ethan's arms rise straight up. Not fear, anticipation, something raw, something old. Where are you taking us? Ethan asked, voice thin, cracking. Silas didn't look back. You'll understand when you see the crown. Hannah breathed. The crown? You'll know it, Silas said, when you see it. And God, they did. The forest opened so suddenly, it felt like someone tore down a curtain. 1 second, twisted trunks squeezing around them. The next, a clearing. And there it stood. The oldest tree in Ravenwood, maybe in the whole damn state. The Raven Crown. You couldn't mistake it. Enormous, like 3 oak trees fused together, bark blackened by storms, roots curling from the earth like the backs of sleeping beasts. And the trunk spiraled upward, splitting into 3 ridges like a crown stabbed into the ground. But what made Hannah's breath stop cold was the hollow. A narrow split in the trunk, 10 feet above the ground, far too high for any child to climb. Silas pointed at it. "She's inside." Hannah almost laughed from disbelief. "Inside? What?" "No, Silas, no, she can't." But then she heard it. A sound. Soft. Shaky. Barely there. A whimper. Ethan grabbed Hannah's hand. "Oh my God! Hannah!" She didn't wait. She ran. Legs numb, chest burning, hands slamming against the bark, searching for a way up. "Avery!" she screamed. "Avery, baby! It's Mommy! Answer me!" Silence. Sharp. Slicing. Then, a tiny voice. Weak. Scratchy. "Mom?" Hannah collapsed, knees giving out like the earth had dropped away. "Oh, God. Avery, sweetheart. Mommy's here. Keep talking. Baby, I'm right here." Silas moved first. "I'll climb." But he didn't get the chance. Something moved inside the hollow. Something small, something limp, and something furry. A corgi. A damn corgi. But not just any corgi. This one was shaking, ribs heaving, hind leg twisted so badly, Hannah couldn't understand how it was still attached. The little dog dragged itself forward, nudging something behind it. A child. Avery, wrapped in Marshall's tiny body, like he'd spent all 4 days acting as her armor. Rook let out a choked sound. Half bark, half cry. Ethan whispered, "Oh my God, Marshall. He found her. He stayed with her." Silas's voice softened. "He didn't leave her. Not once." Marshall nudged Avery again, like saying, "Take her." "I did all I could." Silas and Ethan climbed, hands trembling, lowering Avery down inch by inch. And the moment she was close enough, Hannah broke. She didn't grab her gently. She grabbed her like someone drowning, grabbing air. Like if she let go, the universe would take her again. Her scream. God, that scream. It wasn't human. It was a sound ripped from the deepest place grief could reach. "Avery, Avery, baby, open your eyes. Look at me, please." Avery blinked. Barely. "Mom." Hannah fell apart. Completely. Collapsing in the dirt. Crushing Avery to her chest. "You're here. You're really here. I got you. I'm not letting go. I'm not ever letting go." Ethan knelt beside them, forehead pressed to Avery's, sobbing from a place he didn't know existed. "Aves, we found you. We found you, kiddo. We're taking you home." Avery raised one tiny hand, touched his face, whispered, "Daddy." He just broke. Right there in the roots of the raven crown, Silas stepped back, letting them have the moment. Rook sat beside him, ears forward, chest rising fast, like he'd been holding his breath too. But Marshall, the little corgi, tried to stand and collapsed. Hannah gasped, "Marshall, no, 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 Silas, he's hurt." Silas lifted the tiny dog gently. "He's alive, exhausted, and he gave everything he had." Marshall's eyes fluttered open, just enough to look at Avery one more time. Avery whispered, "My dog." Hannah kissed her hair, tears falling everywhere. "He saved you, baby. He saved you." And for the first time since their world shattered, they had something whole again. Not fixed, not healed, but whole. And honestly, after the chaos under the Raven Crown in Part 8, the screaming, the crying, the relief hitting like a freight train, nobody expected Avery to talk. Not when her lips were pale. Not when her voice sounded like it had been frozen inside her chest for 4 days straight. But she did. She talked. And the words she said, those words froze every adult in that clearing. They were gathered at the base of the massive tree now. Hannah rocking Avery in her lap, kissing the top of her head, like she couldn't stop. Ethan beside them with Marshall wrapped in Silas's jacket, whispering promises the little corgi probably couldn't hear but needed anyway. Rook paced in a tight circle, ears flicking, nose in the air, like he smelled something. Off. That's when Avery tugged at Hannah's sleeve. "Mom?" Hannah jumped. Yeah, baby, I'm here. I'm right here." Avery swallowed, voice small, thin. Can I tell you something?" The adults froze. Even Silas stopped moving. Of course they let her speak. Avery sat up a little, blinking like her memories were heavy, sticking to her like wet leaves. There was someone with me." Hannah tightened. "Honey, you mean Marshall? The little dog?" Avery shook her head. Slow. "No, not Marshall. The other one." The air stilled. Even the trees leaned in. Ethan whispered, "Avery." "What other one?" Avery looked toward the woods. Not scared, not confused, just remembering. "The dark one," she said softly. "The one with the moon eyes." Hannah flinched. "Moon eyes?" Avery nodded, like she wasn't sure how much she should say. "Yeah, really bright, like the full moon, but in dog eyes." Rook stopped pacing, froze, head snapping toward Avery, hackles rising. Silas whispered, "Avery, what did he look like?" Avery shrugged. "He was quiet, really quiet. He didn't bark. He didn't breathe loud. He didn't make any sounds." Hannah's stomach dropped. "No sounds? Not even footsteps?" Avery shook her head. "No, and, he didn't walk like Marshall or Rook. He kinda glided, like the ground moved out of his way." Ethan's face drained. "He glided?" "Yeah," Avery said. "Like water." Silas closed his eyes, jaw tight. Hannah whispered, "Silas, why are you reacting like that?" He didn't answer. Avery continued, voice starting to shake. "But he didn't scare me," she said. "He stayed with me. Every night. He didn't let the dark touch me." Ethan leaned in. The dark, baby, what do you mean? Avery hugged herself, eyes drifting to the roots like they still held the memory. The forest gets really loud at night, she murmured. But not with noise. It's like feelings. Like the dark was trying to come closer, creep around me, but she pointed into the shadows. He stood there, between me and the dark, like he told it no. Hannah choked on a breath. Oh my God. Avery blinked up at her, tears filling. He kept me warm too. When I cried, he put his head on my lap. He didn't let me be scared. Marshall whimpered, soft, agreeing. Avery reached down, stroked his fur, and he didn't leave until Marshall came. When Marshall found me, the moondog looked at me and I think he smiled. Silas inhaled sharply. Ethan turned, voice sharp. Silas, what the hell is going on? You know something. Silas didn't answer yet. He crouched to Avery's eye level, voice soft, careful. Avery, when you looked at him, did he have a name? She paused. Yeah. What was it? Avery blinked slow. Nightfall. Hannah nearly dropped her. Ethan's breath broke. Night. What? Nightfall, Avery repeated. He told me. Not with words. I just knew. Rook growled, low, trembling. Silas stood, backing away like Avery had just rewritten the rules of the forest. Hannah grabbed him. Silas, talk, now. What is nightfall? Silas stared into the dark between the trees, and then he whispered, voice trembling. That's a guardian, he said. A firstborn. Nobody moved, not even the wind. Hannah whispered, what? Silas looked at her, eyes dark, voice unsteady. A firstborn, he repeated. One of the original guardians of Ravenwood. They're ancient. They don't follow humans. They don't protect humans. And they don't show themselves unless the forest chooses it. He pointed gently at Avery. And one followed your daughter for 4 nights straight. Hannah pulled Avery close, arms locking around her. Ethan's voice cracked. Why her? Why would something like that stay with her? Silas stared at Avery, awe and fear mixing in his voice. Because, he whispered, Nightfall saw something in her, something the forest marks. Hannah's voice shook. Marks? Marks her for what? Silas didn't answer. And the trees, God, the trees felt like they were listening again. And right after Avery whispered the name Nightfall in Part 9, right after Silas's face drained like he'd seen a ghost from his own childhood, that's when Ravenwood finally showed them what it really was. Not haunted, not cursed, not sleeping. Alive. They had barely gathered themselves enough to start walking when the first tree moved. And not from wind. There wasn't a single breath of wind. The air was thick, heavy, still, but the tree leaned, like it bowed, like it recognized Avery. Hannah froze, clutching Avery so tight the little girl squeaked. Ethan stepped close, hand on Hannah's back. "Silas," Ethan whispered, voice cracking, "please tell me you've seen that before." Silas didn't blink. "Not in my lifetime." Great, fantastic, perfect moment for blood to crawl. They moved again. Slow, cautious. Avery wrapped in Hannah's arms. Marshall tucked against Ethan's chest. Rook glued to Silas's side like he sensed the whole forest was holding its breath. And then the roots moved. Thick tangles of them shifted under the soil, pulled downward like something tugged from below, creating a path. Smooth, clear, safe. Ethan swore under his breath. "No. No way. This isn't. It's helping us," Silas murmured. "Reverent." Hannah whipped toward him. "Helping? Silas, trees aren't supposed to. She couldn't finish. Avery did. "They're making room for us," she whispered. "They know we're going home." Hannah's heart nearly stopped. What did you just say, baby?" Avery blinked. "The forest knows we're leaving." Silas stiffened. Rook froze mid-step. Ethan tightened his grip. Hannah just stared like Avery had spoken in a language older than English. "Aves," Hannah breathed. "How do you even know that?" Avery shrugged softly. "It told me." Hannah almost dropped her. "It what?" Avery looked up at the canopy. "I don't hear it with my ears. It's like behind my eyes. A tug. A thought that isn't mine." Ethan shook his head, breathing too fast. No, sweetheart, that can't be." Silas said nothing. His silence was answer enough. They walked, and Ravenwood reacted. Two trees ahead leaned outward together, synchronized, forming an archway. Their branches didn't sway. They repositioned, deliberate, purposeful, like hands opening a door. Moonlight spilled through, a glowing strip landing perfectly across their path. And as they walked, the beam moved with them. A spotlight. A living spotlight. Hannah's voice cracked. "Ethan, the moon is following us." "I see it, Han," Ethan whispered. "I'm just pretending I don't." Silas glanced up. "It's guiding you out. It doesn't do that for adults." Hannah's breath shook. "Why Avery? Why her?" Silas hesitated. "Because the forest marked her." "The forest what?" Ethan snapped. But before he could push further, the canopy twisted again, branches braiding themselves, opening a clear tunnel of moonlight with no shadows. Avery whispered, "It doesn't want the dark to touch me." Hannah staggered. "Baby, who told you that?" "I just know," Avery murmured. The deeper they walked, the more Ravenwood behaved like a giant creature waking from a long sleep. Vines curled away, unwrapping like pulled by invisible hands. Dead branches slid aside. The ground softened. The air warmed. Everything moved with intention. Quiet, precise, almost respectful. Ethan whispered, "Silas, is this safe?" "It's not dangerous," Silas said. "If it wanted to stop you, you'd know." "Stop us?" Hannah snapped. "Why would it stop us? Avery is ours." Silas met her eyes, calm, heavy. "Hannah, this forest doesn't think the way we think." "And what does that mean?" He answered gently. "It protected your daughter for 4 nights. It moved its guardians. It let you come in, now it's letting you leave." "Because we're leaving," Hannah said softly. Silas exhaled. Because it chose to let her leave. Ethan tightened his hold on Marshall. Chosen. For what? Silas didn't answer. Not because he wouldn't, but because he didn't know. The path widened. The moon brightened. The trees leaned apart with one last careful exhale, and the dark heart of Ravenwood opened toward home. Avery rested her head on Hannah's shoulder, voice soft, dreamlike. "It's saying goodbye." A chill shot through Hannah so fast she almost stumbled. "Silas, what does that mean?" The forest rustled, soft, deliberate, like it was waiting. Silas finally breathed, barely louder than a whisper. "It means it may not be done with her." And the crazy part is, after everything that happened in part 10, after the forest moved, breathed, and opened itself like something ancient and alive, none of them thought the night could get any stranger. But it did. Because goodbyes, real goodbyes, sometimes don't make a sound. They were almost out. The tree line, right there, 30 feet ahead, where moonlight thinned and the real world finally crawled back in with its normal, boring, human rules. Avery slept half limp in Hannah's arms, Marshall bundled against Ethan's chest, Rook trotting silently beside them. Alert, tense like he felt the forest watching their backs. Silas walked a few steps ahead, scanning the shadows, shoulders tight like he expected one last test before Ravenwood let them go. And then Rook stopped, completely froze mid-stride. A low sound rose from his chest. Not a growl, not fear. Something else. Something almost like grief. Hannah turned, heartbeat spiking. "Rook? What is it, buddy?" Rook didn't look at her. He stared into the darkness behind them, into Ravenwood, into whatever had been following the whole time. Silas whispered, voice thin. "He's here." Ethan tightened his hold on Marshall. "Okay, sorry. Who's here exactly?" Silas didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because the shadows shifted. Not moved. Shifted. Like someone peeled them apart from the inside. And out stepped a shape. Tall. Silent. smooth. A creature built from night and moonlight and something not meant for the human world. Nightfall. He made no sound, no breath, no growl. Just appeared like he'd been standing there the whole time waiting for his cue. Hannah's knees buckled. "Oh my God!" Avery stirred, head lifting weakly. She didn't scream, didn't hide. She smiled. "Hi," she whispered. Nightfall lowered his head. A greeting. Not to a child, but to an equal. And then he stepped back, body dissolving into a spiral of pale moonlight that drifted upward through the treetops and vanished. Just gone, leaving only silence and a faint glow fading like an exhale. Hannah broke, not from fear, from awe. She fell to her knees, hugging Avery so tight her arms shook, whispering, "You're safe, you're safe, you're safe," over and over as tears soaked her daughter's hair. Rook pressed against them, head bowed, chest rising slow, reverent, like he too understood the moment. Silas stared at the empty space where nightfall vanished. "He returned to the forest," Silas whispered. "Guardians don't leave their realm. They only step out when called." Ethan wiped his face, voice breaking. "Called by who?" Silas's gaze fell to Avery, half asleep, safe. Leaning into Hannah with small, fragile trust. His voice dropped, soft, certain, heavy. The forest didn't choose her, and after nightfall vanished in part 11. After that swirl of moonlit wind folded him back into whatever ancient realm he belonged to, something in the world shifted. Like the air finally remembered how to be normal again. Like the weight they carried for 4 endless nights loosened its grip. The moment they stepped out of Ravenwood and onto the cracked asphalt of the old service road. Hannah's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees, Avery in her arms, sobbing so hard it didn't even sound like crying. It sounded like her chest finally breaking open after holding too much for too long. "Avery, Aves, baby, oh God, oh my God!" Her words came out half breath, half relief, half panic, all tangled together. Avery clung to her shoulders, confused, then squeezing tighter as Hannah rocked her like she was trying to convince her own arms that the little body was real. Ethan wasn't any better. He didn't even try to be strong this time. He hit the ground beside them, one hand on Hannah's back, the other cupping Avery's cheek, and he cried. Loud, shaking, raw. The kind of crying that comes when terror finally lets go but leaves bruises behind. "I thought we lost you," he whispered, voice breaking. "Sweetheart, God, I thought—" But he couldn't finish the sentence. Marshall limped toward them, splinted paw, wrapped in Silas's jacket, and pressed his little head into Avery's lap. Her tiny fingers curled into his fur, just like she had in that hollowed-out tree. Rook came next. He didn't sit. He didn't lie down. He leaned his entire weight gently against Hannah's side. No wagging. No excitement. Just presence. Just certainty. the quiet promise that none of them would fall apart again. Silas stood a few feet away, silent, watching with a kind of grief that didn't belong to this moment alone, like he'd witnessed this scene in another lifetime, another family, another child claimed and returned by Ravenwood. Hannah finally lifted her face, tears still falling uncontrolled. "Silas," she whispered, "why? Why did this happen? Why my daughter?" Silas shook his head, gentle. "Hannah, Ravenwood doesn't steal children." Ethan looked up, eyes red. "Then what do you call the last 4 days?" Silas crouched down, level with them, not distant, not threatening, just present. "Listen," he said quietly. "That forest." He glanced backward, as if checking whether Ravenwood still had ears even from here. "It doesn't take children. It doesn't hunt them. It doesn't trap them." He paused, choosing his words with weight. "It chooses who to protect." The sentence hit them like a silent explosion. Hannah blinked. "Protect?" Silas, Avery, almost. "No," he interrupted softly. "She almost didn't. And that's different." Ethan swallowed. "But she was alone out there." "Alone with 2 guardians," Silas corrected. "One born of men, Marshall, who found her through sheer instinct, and another, not born of anything you or I can truly understand." Hannah whispered, "Nightfall." Silas nodded. "Some children Ravenwood ignores, leaves untouched, but some it shelters." Avery looked up, small, tired, curious. "Why me?" Silas's face softened, aged, honest in a way few humans ever manage. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe the forest sees something in you I can't. Maybe it hears something you haven't learned to say yet. Maybe it watched you cry and decided you shouldn't face the dark alone." Avery whispered, "Nightfall didn't let the dark touch me." Silas nodded softly. "I know." Ethan wiped his face. "So, what now? We go home and pretend this wasn't otherworldly?" "No," Silas murmured. "You go home and rest. Let the world be normal again. And you don't enter Ravenwood unless the forest invites you." "Invites us?" Hannah echoed. "Forests don't—" But she stopped herself, because she knew better now. Silas stood, closing a book nobody else in Cedar Hollow even knew existed. "It's over," he whispered. "For now." "For now?" Ethan asked. Silas tightened the strap on his canvas pack. "Ravenwood doesn't forget the children it protects. And Avery won't forget it either." Hannah shivered. "Are you saying it'll come back for her?" Silas shook his head. "No, I'm saying, if she ever needs it again, it'll hear her." He stepped back toward the trees, toward home. His home. One blink later, he was gone. Ethan let out a shaky breath. "Hannah, let's get her home." "Yeah," she whispered. "Yeah." Let's go. They stood, slow, careful, like gravity might betray them again. Avery rested her head on Hannah's shoulder. Marshall limped beside them. Rook walked ahead. Not nervous, not alert, just proud. And behind them, Ravenwood stayed silent, not angry, not hungry, not looming, just watching, waiting, present. As the Merritt family took their first steps toward Cedar Hollow, the moon slipped behind a cloud, dimming the path, letting night become just night again. Because the ancient part of the world had closed its eyes, at least for now.